All right, Algebra 1, linear system story problems. So my students have been solving linear systems. They have talked about parallel lines having no solution, overlapping lines having infinite solutions, intersecting lines having one solution, and the solution, that one solution is the coordinate point where they intersect, so the crossing point. So now we're going to tie that into story problems. Now, story problems are all going to be the one solution variety. So now that we're talking about story problems, there is going to be a solution. All right, at least for the story problems I'm giving my students, is there will be a solution, and that solution will be, if I can take the caps off my markers fast enough, that solution will be the x, y coordinate where they cross. Now, some of these story problems might ask for you to answer with the x, might ask you to answer with the y, depends on the story problem. So let's break it down for this story problem. So, there are two competing buffet restaurants that both have family promos. All right, Buffet A's promo is $80 for the whole family. So no matter how many members there are, $80 for the whole family. So what you should already be doing, and I know everybody just loves their story problems, is every single story problem I'm giving to my class, it's a system of two equations, two linear equations. So let's say we got buffet A, buffet B. All right, we got to create our equations. All right, and our equation for buffet B is it's just $80. It is a flat fee. You go there and you're like, hey, I got 12 members of my family. I saw your promo. Here's $80. We're going to go eat. No matter what. It doesn't matter if there's 10, 20. Doesn't matter how many people show up with that family. I don't know how they're going to decide if their family. This is made up, obviously. But it's $80. So buffet A is just 80. Let me write that neater. That's ugly. Buffet A is just 80. It's 80. It's a flat rate. You got $80. You're spending $80. All right. Buffet B's promo is $8 per family member to eat. So Buffet B is not a flat fee. Buffet B is $8 per person. So this one is like one family member $8, two family members $16, three family members $24, four family members $32, 40, 48. All right. You keep adding on. So for every person, it's $8 more. This one's just a flat fee. So once the hard part is making these equations, because I feel like all of my students know how to solve these. You just graph them. All right, that's one way. That's the way we've been doing it. Was we're just going by graphing. All right. There's other ways to solve it. But we're going to talk about just graphing because that's what my students are working on. So I would tell my students, graph this. Now, if you have Desmos, I'm going to write this up here again. If you have Desmos, that's supposed to be a D, by the way. That's, oh my gosh, Lord. If you have Desmos, I spelled it wrong too. I'll tell you what, this remote teaching gets to you. If you have Desmos, you can download it on your phone. It's a free app. Once you download it, you don't need cellular data or internet to use it. If you have a computer, you just type in Desmos and a free web browser, graphing calculator. Amazing. You just type these two things in and you look for where they intersect. Now I'm erase all my lovely story problem that took me forever to write. And if you're one of those people that do not have internet, which I don't know how you're watching this video if you don't have internet, but whatever, then you can graph it by hand. So if you're to graph this by hand, something else, and my students, we already talked about this, when we're doing story problems, remember we did not use the second, third, and fourth quadrant, it's just quadrant 1. So we got the y-axis, the x-axis. All right, we're going by family members, so 0 family, 1 member, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 11. Oh, and I forgot, you might have to go back. The question is, how many family members will make them cost the same? And we're gonna find that out. And you do that by graphing. I'm gonna go by 8s, because it'll make it a lot easier because one of them is going by the 8s. So if I go 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48, 56, 64, 72, 80, 88, 96. I'm gonna stop there. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11. All right, let's pick colors. I'm gonna do purple for buffet A and red for buffet B. All right, so basically for buffet B, which is why I did this, is every single one, it goes up. And if I space these right, because they'd be spaced right on yours, it should be this straight line. Oh, gosh. I didn't have my intervals spaced right, but if you're using graph paper, it should be spaced right. Should be going in a straight linear line. And then this one, buffet A, is always $80, no matter how many people, it's $80. Did that come out about right? No, it did not. Where's my yardstick? Did I put my yardsticks away? Flubber nugget. I did. This red line is not straight. This red line is really not straight. All right, let's try this again. It should be that's a little bit closer. It should be right there. So if you graph this on Desmos, because 8 times 10, right? What's 8 times 10? 80. So they should intersect right here. And you would see that on Desmos. You'd see if you use graph paper, all my spacings are different because I did it by hand and I rushed it. But that is where they would intersect. So they'd intersect at, they would intersect at 1080. So the question was, if you look back at the story problem, the question was, how many family members would make it cost the same? Is it 80 family members? Remember, when my students did their story problems, I had them label. So this would be members. And this would be money. So X is members. All right, so 10 members. The answer you put in would be 10 members. All right, if I had asked how much money would they cost the same at, the answer would be $80. All right, I could ask another question of which deal is better, which is like, okay, well, if you're gonna have 9 members or below, buffet B is better because it's cheaper, 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 cheaper. But if you're gonna bring 11 members, because all of a sudden at 11 members, 11 family members, this one costs $88, whereas buffet A costs $80. All right, so there's different ways I can ask questions about that. You can get questions about it. Lots of story problems. 2 linear lines, all of them are gonna be 2 linear lines. All right, so you have to find 2 equations. I think for my students, I'm gonna start by maybe giving them the 2 equations along with the story problem for them to then match, okay, this equation came from this part of the story problem, this one came from this part, and then maybe next week, you'll have to find your own equations. So for my students, when you're reading the problems I assign this week, pay really close attention to how those equations match to the story problem, how they're derived from the story problem. Because next week, you're gonna have to find your own equations. All right, just like how I found my own equations from the story problem. That's about it. I'll probably end up making another video on this where I just go through a little bit more quickly, maybe 2 or 3 examples, because there's just so many, it's a wide variety. The point is they are all linear. They can all be written in, all of them can be written in y equals mx plus b, where m is the changing rate, and b is the flat amount, right? Doesn't change. It doesn't, that $80, that didn't change. That was $80. No matter how many people showed up, $80. 100 people, you got a 100-person family member, which is why this is not a real promo. $80. All right, this one was 8x because it changed 8 times every single person. This one technically had a slope of 0, right? No slope. Slope of 0, slope of 0, slope of 0. So, for my students, do you have any questions about the assignments you get this week about story problems? I know story problems are pretty hard, and that's why I put them off. Really hard to do when we're not in the same classroom. And I know it sucks, but please try your best. That's all I can ask for. Shoot me an email, make a private comment on Google Classroom. Always here to help whether or not we are in the same room. All right. Thank you for watching.